I'm just getting pelted with eggs in this truck. And I turned like thinking like, who are these? Like I like remember screeching my tires. I'm gonna chase these freaking pricks down, and it's you. You're egging your own truck.
What's up? This is Zach, and I got my brother Alex.
Hey.
This is the Road to Nowhere podcast. This week we got a good one for you. We cover the Megalodon, we cover the Masters, and we cover how Danny Tanner could be our real father. So check it out.
Hey, should we address the elephant in the room? I'm talking about Megalodon.
Megalodon.
Yeah, you hear there's been some sightings lately.
Oh my gosh, you're obsessed with Megalodon. First, the backstory on Alex and Megalodon. He calls me up. It's like probably 11 at night. He's like, dude, you have to watch this documentary. And he starts going off about this giant shark. They call it the Megalodon. Him and his wife were like so into it. And they never once thought that it was fake. Like there was no option for this. They said this is real. So he calls me and I like had to like break his heart and be like, hey, there's no Santa Claus. There's no Megalodon currently alive right now.
I went back and rewatched it, right, just to see, because at the start of this thing,
but then you called me up and you confirmed the next day, like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, for sure. Well, at the start of this documentary, they have like, well, it's just like an acted documentary. This is back when Shark Week, like you took work off, you did everything for Shark Week, right? So Kelsey and I are there. We haven't left the couch in days, right? And we're watching, and this disclaimer comes on that's like, I swear it said something along the lines like, everything you're going to see is true. And so I'm like, okay, the disclaimer come on. Turns out they got me with like a double negative. You know how they could do that. Like it's not true. You know?
Yeah, it's not true.
So they had a couple of dots in there that canceled it out. So it was a fake, you know, but those double negatives, you got to watch out for them.
I had you like, I thought of you in such high regards until that phone call. I'm like, what the hell's happening? It's like a glitch in the Matrix. Like, what? Oh man,
It was a slip up. I had to claw my way back.
Yeah.
After that one.
Or did you have an update on the Megalodon?
No, I really don't. Still,
what I'm watching right now is this lockdown show on Netflix. Have you seen it? It just barely came out. Essentially, it's this like maximum security prison. And I think it's in like, where is it? Oh, Arkansas. It's in Arkansas. And 23 hours a day, they're on lockdown. There's probably 100 of them. There's 2 floors. 23 hours a day, they're on lockdown. The other hour, they're eating, like in the mess hall in the center. And the sheriff, the guy that runs it, essentially is like, hey, I want to start this program. We're going to do a test trial where like we open up the doors all day and we let these people just live as a community, figure itself out. Because that's what they do a lot in Europe, is they're a little more lenient. So essentially that's where I'm at right now, is they've just like all the inmates are shocked that they're going to do this. They're like, what's happening? And they're like, there's, all different types of people in there, but it's pretty wild. And so they open the doors and the old guard, all the old people there are like trying to like establish order. And then you got the young bucks being like, I don't want to listen to these old people. I mean, it's crazy so far. It'll be interesting to see what happens. It's like a Lord of the Flies test here.
Yeah, I love that. When a producer gets shanked.
Yeah, they're really finding shanks. Like it is wild. And they don't censor anything. Like people are getting beat up and like, if you disrespect somebody, you get shanked.
And they just do that.
I can't imagine like a worse. There's not a nightmare that lines up as bad as that. I mean, that is the worst case scenario, to be 23 hours a day on lockdown. And they're with somebody. They have like a cellmate too.
Oh yeah. That's the worst part is like the absolute, like you can say like your freedom or maybe possibility of getting killed or whatever, but the very worst part would be you would have no home court advantage when it comes to taking a dump. Like you would have to be sharing with somebody else, and they have to look at you.
They don't complain about that at all. I think they're so used to that. Like they don't know anything. All these people have been in prison forever. They're like, if they get out, they're out for like a month. And so this is hopefully.
I know on Shawshank had some extended, like the extended version of Shawshank Redemption. They talk about
they open up the doors.
Well, he talks about how he talks about how he has to get out because
he needed to poo in private.
Yeah, that's why they went to Mexico.
As he went to Nejo.
Yeah,
he probably did. That was his whole motivation to break out, so he could have privacy in the bathroom.
Yeah, I'd have to break out. My kids would be disappointed though, because like say I break out, that's the first thing I'm gonna want to do. First thing I want to see is my bidet. you know.
Push your kids aside. Dad's been in prison for 20 years. He pushes kids aside and just runs to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Oh man, I can't wait to greet you.
You're just gonna have to wait though.
If you went into prison, like, and they're just guessing what you did, what do you think they would be guessing? tax evasion, fraud.
No, I feel
Ponzi
like
scheme.
no at this point. No, because I feel like, I mean, those are people don't go to prison for that. Like one guy stole like
They go to like a beach resort prison.
yeah, like Bankman-Fried. He stole like billions and billions from people, and I know he got sentenced, but we all know he's never gonna go to
But
jail.
you heard
right?
the dude from who's the star with the Ashton Kutcher TV show? Was it that 70s show?
Yeah.
He got in all that trouble.
Yeah.
He had a hit put out on him. He got jumped, and they had to move him to a different prison.
Ooh.
So you think he'd be
So
privileged?
we ran into that guy once. We were visiting my friend Kyvan in California. He was a
Did he
spy
hit on your
actor.
wife?
No, he didn't, dude. But I was in with Kelsey. Otherwise, I could have kind of thrown her at him.
Yeah.
But no, I was. We were at like a really low budget comedy club that, one of those JP ideas.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
but we saw him. I saw him.
Yeah,
like,
there was a hit put out on him.
this is pre-hit,
This is just barely, I think, last like week.
pre-prison. That's crazy. Yeah, he had some like really bad press.
He went from being on top to
Yeah.
like, I mean, that's a big change in life.
Yeah, like that Weinstein fall from grace. But I mean that type of stuff. It's hard to be really sympathetic, but the other side is like, dude, how bad would it be to be set up for that? We had a relative that was him, and this is like my mom's like uncle or something like that. But him, or maybe my mom's cousin, him and his wife are going through a really bad divorce, and his wife like gets in the kids' heads that they're being sexually abused by their dad, right? And so she like plants it in their heads, and this guy ends up going to prison for it, right? And this whole time he's like, so he when he's like realizes the chips are stacked against him, he takes a plea deal because he's like, hey, like they basically have said, they kind of talk. He must have had a terrible attorney too, and years later he gets exonerated, but he can't get exonerated because he already took a plea deal and pled guilty.
Yeah.
So he still had to finish this sentence because he took this plea deal,
This
even
is
though
our
this
cousin?
is mom's like one of mom's cousins, right?
Yeah.
And so this basically what had happened is the kids came forward and were like, no, none of this, or some of them came forward. Other ones were so incepted by the mom that they're like, no,
Yeah.
like, but other ones came forward and found out like, no, there was nothing like this that happened. This was just a crazy like divorce. And so he was like kind of the victim of, but it was like, he still has like the sex offender thing following him around because he took that plea deal, even though he's since been like exonerated by the courts.
On that one, I feel a little bad for in that situation.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Yeah. But that's like, I feel like that's one where I'm like, that always stresses me out. Like if you get like accused.
Oh my gosh.
You're, and there's a lot of like stuff going around colleges, like rules that are basically taking away like the innocent until proven guilty thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where you kind of have that in your corner, but now it's like,
yeah, this is heavy.
it's heavy. Sorry.
No, I brought it up.
Yeah, you did.
That show is
70s
heavy.
70s show?
No, that show was
your show.
Lockdown. I think it's Lockdown. Man, it's good to be back.
Oh man, it's just been a few days in Nuevo Mexico. New Mexico was kind of a grind.
That's the first time I've ever been to New Mexico.
Yeah, and for a lot of people, like you think you're that close to Mexico, and they're gonna have just awesome Mexican food, right? And I don't want to insult the people out there because to each his own, but they make these blue corn tortillas and they just throw it on everything, right?
Yeah. Well, there's a difference between Mexican food and New Mexican food. They make that a point. Like when you're looking at restaurants, like this is a New Mexican restaurant.
Yeah.
Not Mexican restaurant. It's not like your classic taquerias.
Yeah, because I wonder if the food's different in New York versus just straight old York. I mean, I've been to both, and I think
York, England.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet it's the same.
Yeah, it's probably
the culture's the same. The accents are the same.
No, it was, but you think with the circumference too, like you're, like 500 miles from Juarez. So you think from the circumference of Mexico, you're going to be able to find really good food. And I'm sure we were kind of held hostage a little bit.
Yeah.
Where we could eat.
What was crazy when we were there is we were walking by that building. It's called it was a governor's mansion.
Governor's Palace.
Governor's Palace.
Yeah.
1610. So we always just, all we do is talk, and growing up, all we did was talk about like Jamestown and the first pilgrims coming over. And that was like in 1600, about the same time, 1610.
Well,
But those were like these weird religious people. I mean,
Yeah,
they're witches.
you had Pocahontas propaganda popping up everywhere too.
A lot of witchcraft going on. But meanwhile, I mean, the Spanish had already set up a lot over here in like New Mexico side.
Yeah, they were busy. They were busy. They were, they were mining gold and silver, and I mean, the English and the Puritans. They were old news.
They were old news.
Yeah.
But they thought they were so cool. Like in all our textbooks growing up, that's all I remember is hearing about the Puritans and reading a lot about them. But we didn't really cover like how much Spanish history there was in our actual United States.
Yeah, no, I definitely did cover it. So I don't know what you were doing. Mr. Jorgensen, shout out to Mr. Jorgensen, one of my favorite Utah studies teachers.
Dude, speaking of Spanish, so on this day in history, guess what happened?
What's that? Spanish Armada.
No. Have you heard of the Bay of Pigs?
Oh, I have heard of the Bay of Pigs.
What do you know about it?
So from what I remember, it was a CIA operation where at this time, Castro had already taken over Cuba, and Cuba was like the premier destination, right? Like you didn't back then. You didn't go to Las Vegas. You went to Cuba, and you'd have a party weekend with your buddies, and they had awesome casinos. The mob was heavily entrenched in Cuba, right, with all these casinos. And then Castro takes over and communism takes over. And so
why were people so upset like during that time? If things were so good in Cuba, was it just the locals that were just struggling?
Yeah, I think you had probably I mean, the mob is kind of notorious for not always looking after the common man, right? And so I think there was probably a huge class disparity, right, of people being mistreated, right, of whatever it might be, right, which of course made them embrace the ridiculous communism. But
yeah, Castro came in and
so Castro comes in and he has like the support of the people, but he didn't have the support of the CIA, which if you really want to get on in this world, you need the CIA to back you too.
I know the U.S. was really pissed off at Castro because he signed a treaty with the communists over in Russia and said, "Hey, you can we'll do all of your oil." But the refineries were actually U.S. owned refineries in Cuba.
Oh, crazy! I didn't know that.
Yeah, so Cuba essentially is like.
Oh yeah, when they nationalized them.
And like 2 years later, like in early '60s, Castro's like, "Hey, we're taking these over," and that's what really ticked him off. But I mean, going back to we were talking about Spain. Originally, Cuba was Spain's. And then there's the whole like Spanish-American War, late 1800s Spanish-American War.
Yeah, that's back when presidents used to just get on horses and be like, "Hey, I'm going to get together a couple of my rich buddies, and we're going to storm this hill and kill all these Spaniards."
Yeah, that's when they sent that the USS Maine out there, that big ship, and it gets blown up in Havana. I think Havana.
Oh, did that happen?
That happened over there, and that's what really, I mean, set off the Americans to be like, "Hey, we're ending this whole Spain, this whole,
It doesn't take much to set us off,
Yeah, that was pretty much the end of Spain over here, like in this area. They gave up. Well, we walked right in. It was a pretty easy war for us. We walked right in, took Guam like it was nothing.
Yeah, we still have Guam, right? Still territory?
Still territory. Guam, we got the Philippines, and then
Puerto Rico,
and Cuba. But Cuba, like we left them in charge, essentially. But yeah, it was it was a pretty easy war for Teddy Roosevelt. That was his big
Bunker Hill. Well, no, it wasn't Bunker Hill.
Glory moment. It was San Juan Hill.
That was it. Yeah.
So, but Guantanamo Bay, where we actually still keep prisoners.
Yeah, which is crazy. People don't realize
that was the first place the U.S. landed in the Spanish-American Wars, and then they moved up north from there. But Guantanamo.
CIA has like a very rich, beautiful history of trying to create revolutions to overthrow governments.
Let's get back to the Bay of Pigs. So essentially, Eisenhower, he's like, "Hey, we're upset. These communists are kind of taking over here. We can't use our own refineries. They've nationalized everything." He's mad, so he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna get all these exiles, these Cuban exiles over in Florida, and train them up, and we're gonna like essentially kick out the communists. I'm gonna send them over there, and they're gonna go." So then he gets out of office, and JFK takes over. So it comes time to land and like actually run this Bay of Pigs operation. Originally, they were supposed to land more south, and then last minute, JFK is like, "Hey, I want to change it up." And he actually lands. The Bay of Pigs is like a place where Castro would vacation. He really originally they were supposed to land at a spot that was pro-capitalist. He moved it to like essentially Castro's favorite vacation spot, and they just botched the whole thing. They got destroyed. So it was one of the biggest blunders ever. Like I think like they planned on like, hey, we'll blow up their airstrip and then we'll come in on ground like through the ground. But there was like they had anticipated there was reefs and they couldn't land their ships and they just got worked. I think like
yeah, it feels like the CIA history is like full of getting worked by Cuban spies. Like the Cubans, they figured out like espionage a lot better than we did.
But just our relationship with Cuba after that has been
weird.
On and off crazy.
It is, yeah. It's like we should just kind of let those bygones.
Do you remember like? I actually remember this. I think in the Clinton administration, if you landed in Cuba, if you actually came from Cuba and landed in the United States and actually touched ground, you could stay. But if they caught you on a boat, they had to send you back to Cuba. So as long as you got your foot on the ground in the U.S., you're good to go.
Stay as a refugee.
Yep.
That's kind of crazy. Yeah. Well, there was that kid. Do you remember that kid? He had like, his dad was over here. You remember this whole story? This kid,
vaguely, I feel like I didn't know
his
what you're
name's on
about.
like the tip of my tongue, right? But his dad lived over here, and he came over here, and there was like this custody battle between him and his mom, or maybe his dad was over there. That makes probably more sense that his mom brought him over to the U.S. and there was this whole fight. And I think we lost to Cuba in that one too. I think we lost the kid. Looking back, but yeah, it'd be fun. I'd like to open up borders. You know, you can you can go to Cuba if you go to Mexico first, right? Like you could go.
Is that what the current restrictions are?
Yeah, we got a trade embargo, right? But the rest of the world's kind of like over the trade embargo.
What's the politics over there right now?
Still communism, but still very central government and extremely poor, like almost all communist governments are, right?
It's hard to know what's true because they always act like, hey, there's 10,000 refugees from Cuba came over. Like, everyone's fleeing Castro's regime. Well, but like they have to have enough people to keep that whole political, the whole communism up, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're gonna get me going, you're gonna tee me up like this. So what happens in these cases is it's never when these regimes come into play. It's not like in America where you have a lot of rights still, right? They're chipping away at them, but there's still a lot of rights. Typically, these regimes come in, and for public safety, they start removing, certain rights to bear arms and rights to freedom of speech and all this type of thing. So people are so restricted, and there's so many things they can very easily go to jail for that it's very difficult to have a revolution without a ton of help from America. And I think America is probably just like wanting to sit it out and just let them suffer over there. Like it's not a
suffer during the Bay of Pigs when we thought we could just
that was back. But that's back when we were really fighting a war against.
Are we only doing proxies? Is that just what it's been like since the start of the Cold War?
Stupid. I know. I want to freaking dip in. I mean, we did go into Afghanistan. We dipped out.
Like we keep that going back into the Bay of Pigs, but essentially that pissed off Castro so much. He's like, "Hey, Russians, bring in your nuclear missiles. You can store them all here." Like that's literally like the big turning point that made them even more communist than they already were.
Yeah. I mean, I think there was like 300 assassination attempts on Castro.
He's the man, dude.
He is the man. I know, right?
Because him and Che were like the
Che got killed though eventually.
Yeah, but Castro, man.
Yeah, I wouldn't call him the man in terms of like he's the man in terms of like Bourne couldn't even kill him. I know we sent Bourne, Jason Bourne, and that's when he like kind of froze up because Castro's holding his kid. He's on a boat, and Bourne just froze
I remember
up. That. Just bad trading.
The CIA
Treadwell,
Jason Bourne to
Blackstone or whatever.
Kill Castro.
Yeah.
I actually remember that growing up. It's a real thing. Dude, so I just went to Europe, went to Ireland with my 3-year-old.
Oh, man. That looked fun.
It was wild.
You have any stories?
Oh, my gosh. Well,
can you tell us some stories?
Stories. A lot of stories. It's crazy taking a 3-year-old there, but it's not too bad because it's like you're kind of just driving around looking at scenery. Yeah. But I take her out. We went to the west side of Ireland, which is really cool because they all speak Irish out there. That's like their first language. Like if you walk into a store and you hear two people chatting, they're speaking Irish. It's pretty crazy. But you probably never saw this movie. It's called The Banshees of Inisherin, but they filmed it. It's this like kind of Irish.
Pierce
show.
Brosnan's in that, right?
No, Banshee.
No, it's Mad-Eye Moody's in it.
Yeah, and,
that's the guy. And not who's the guy? Colin Farrell.
Colin Farrell.
Yeah.
But we went to those islands out there on the west side of Ireland. Uh-huh. And it was really cool. I mean, there's castles everywhere, but I get back to the shore. I get back to the mainland, and I go get in our car, and I can't find the keys. I left them somewhere on the island. So I'm stuck in this little village for like a day, and I was on the phone for hours with the rental car company. They charged me €800. That includes the key and the tow to the nearest town to get a different car.
Oh my gosh.
But it was brutal, so I'm trying to fight that.
Yeah.
Other than that, the trip, like Europe,
Like,
is
are you
awesome.
fighting it like you were set up? Like,
Yeah, this is a setup. Irish had set me up for sure. It feels like
so. This is like
this is an IRA type thing.
it's like the fugitive type situation. Like you told me that you had like hitchhiked when you were out there. This was during the Key incident, I'm assuming.
I had to hitchhike back and forth to the car that was miles away from my hotel that I'd lost the keys from. And yeah, it was crazy. I'll play a clip right now just to like show you what they sound like because I was filming this guy that was giving me a ride.
Now, did he consent to you filming him?
No. I mean, I don't know. I couldn't understand what he was saying. So
I've been clear all day. I started off in the hinge. And I've been the hinge Doolin, I was in Kinvare above in Galway for a while. Ballyvaughan. I've all kind of done a burn cover today. Wow. And the guy that usually covers Clare in is in Limerick. Yeah. Now change the scene or he's good for us. Yeah.
Do you live by the sea? Your
oh
town?
no,
Yeah.
I'm mountains.
Oh, mountains.
Mountains and forests.
Yeah.
Yummy, yummy.
That's why I like coming down this side.
Yeah.
You see that different like.
Yeah.
My dad.
These
Where's
cliffs
my
are
mama?
awesome right here too.
Oh, stop. Just, and the boat trip is great.
Yeah.
At least it didn't happen too far away.
Yeah. Not too bad. Yeah.
It could always be worse.
Yep. Should be work.
Yeah, I didn't understand like anything that's happening there.
he's my buddy though. I think he's gonna come out and visit us.
Hopefully he does, because when
He kind of sounded like Brad Pitt a little bit in the movie Snatch, where he's playing the pikey. They all sound a little bit like that, but
my fear, like when you're in those situations with little kids, is they could like think it's funny that people are talking in gibberish and just start making fun of them. You know,
I was going to do that. No,
yeah,
I was
filming him.
I was
Got
more
up
the
in his
person
face.
to do that. No, Pepper didn't know what the freak was going on.
Yeah,
Everyone's like, "Oh, she'll remember this forever." I'm like, "No, she won't remember anything."
no, she won't.
But you never know.
You take pictures.
But yeah, I got a ride from another guy that was he was born in Chernobyl, and he was like 7 when the explosions went off, and he wasn't infected until they gave him shots for it. The needle was infected, and so it almost kills him. He has 25 plus surgeries, and his whole face is just messed up. From
Yeah,
this.
you told me this earlier, and when like infected. So Chernobyl's, obviously a nuclear power plant breakdown. So you have this uranium core that blows up.
Yeah. And so I don't know if the needle was infected by that.
Or like the stuff inside, like the
Whatever he was shot with, that needle is what jacked him
radioactive.
up. Mm-hmm. That's what jacked him up. And he's like, I died twice. They brought me back to life.
Crap.
But then when he was 7, he moved over to Ireland, and he had this whole like Ukrainian Irish accent. He was tough to understand. But the Europeans, man, they just have a couple things that they're backwards on.
Mm-hmm.
The water, like, have you ever asked for a glass of water when you're in Europe?
Yeah.
They're it's almost like they're running out of water. I'm like dehydrated just thinking about Europe.
Give you a little water.
They give you hardly any water. They don't give you any ice.
No, they are anti-ice, which this is worth fighting another war over there over. Is they won't give you ice. Mm-hmm. And so when I go to these places, restaurants in Europe, I ask for 2 cups of ice.
Yeah.
Because I know they're going to.
I don't even dare ask because they're like, they get upset.
Scared. Yeah. I maybe I just don't. That's probably why they hate Americans at times, because we're asking for so much of their damn ice. And they're limited. They got to bring that stuff from Norway.
Yeah. I don't know where they're getting it from, but they're very protective of it. That, and you run into places that don't have air conditioning. I don't understand. Why does it not have air conditioning? And then with the non-air conditioning, they get smellier people. I mean, I'm just going to say it. Americans, per capita, our smell is better.
Yeah, next time you're abroad, because I agree with Zach, but I think we want our viewers to gain their own opinions and not just rely upon us. So
breathe it in on the subway in Paris if you ever go there.
Yeah.
I don't know. In New York, I mean, you're going to get BO and stuff here, but it's not like what it's like over there.
That's
They must be eating some. Their crops are different. Maybe there's some crop over there that's making them smellier. Yeah, that's only the biggest differences between Europe and driving on the left side of the road. I actually enjoy better.
You like that more?
I feel more comfortable being on the right side of the car than the left for some reason.
I don't know. I need that extra space, but I do feel like I've gotten used to it. The first time I did it was like very high anxiety.
Well, yeah, you did it here in the States.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But now it's like I'll make one major mistake every time I'm in a country driving on the left side of the road. Like one major mistake, I'm like, oh. But like usually I can veer
I didn't
out of
have any of those this time, but I have in the past.
together. Did you see in the news the craziest thing happened? Well, the video came out yesterday, but this lady's taking care of this 68-year-old guy. I don't know if she worked for like a facility that did this or how. This is in Brazil, and Brazil could have like something different. But the guy dies on her watch, right? Of like natural, normal
Like an
causes.
assisted living center type thing?
Yeah, like she was like a nurse, or maybe she was going from house to house or whatever. This guy dies. So she wheels his dead body, less than 2 hours dead, right? Wheels him to his bank and tries to get access to his pension. So you can see she got like the ped. I mean, this is why. So when we were young, people were always talking about video games are going to make our kids' generation violent, right? And this next generation is going to be super violent, and we have not shown. I mean, I think history has shown we are not violent people, right?
Yeah,
we weren't affected by that. But Weekend at Bernie's comes out, and they don't say a word about how people are going to take old people and party with them.
That was the problem.
This is what happened, right? People like we got to censor this stuff because
So she took the guy's body and just
she's wheeling this guy over. She's trying to sign for him, like put the pet in between his like a little dead hands. The guy's just like, I mean, it's a wild.
how long did it go for? Until they're like, hey,
I think it's like a bank teller uncomfortably like asking the man if he needs to go to the hospital.
yeah.
And this guy's
See, I was a bank teller, and 100% I would have given her the money. And I'd have been like, checks out for sure. Yeah, here, how much do you want? You want to empty it out?
yeah.
That would have been me for sure.
Yeah. Well, you're lucky to get Weekend at Bernie.
I could,
Because-
I mean, in the U.S. it'd be hard to pull off, but you never know.
Now you get him through the drive-through.
Yeah. Pull out like some type of wave thing going on.
Yeah, that was her problem.
That's me. Oh yeah.
She wasn't prepared enough. Like you gotta have your fishing line and like
Yeah.
I mean, show a little bit, like maybe like a little bit of like you put like a ruler back
Yeah,
behind
put
and
some
tape it to the
sunglasses.
neck,
Yep.
sunglasses.
Keep it up and like kind of head bump.
For sure. Dude.
Oh, that's great.
Well, I think we all know what time it is. I mean, it's like clockwork for us. It's time for our Costco correspondent to give us good news of Costco.
Let's go.
All right, see, here we are again. We're at I think we're at the West Bountiful Costco. We got some real treats in store today. We're going to start with the Premier Protein Shake. So, a few items while we crack this open. One, this actually started as a protein that was focused on bariatric patients. I'll let you figure out what that means, but regardless, that's where this whole thing started. So when you're thinking about a protein drink, you're going to want to think there's a few different items. One, protein content, 30 grams of protein. Two, texture. Three, taste. So let's give it a quick whirl. This is really just a one swig opportunity. I'll tell you, this isn't exactly the most ideal protein drink. It's a little chalky, so I would give this a gotta go item.
A protein drink. Yeah, it's funny because I'm not a big protein drinker myself, but I always have these stocked in my house.
I would have guessed you drink a lot of protein.
More creatine. I take that teed.
Yeah, I like those. I mean, I switched off of those a couple of years ago to the muscle milks when I do drink them.
But your kids are still big into the child version.
Yeah,
of
the
this.
child version.
What's the
I don't know
difference
if it's
between this and
Premier though, because the child one has like 8 grams of protein. It's not a ton.
They match protein for sugar.
Yeah,
Like that
and then the one that Harv just did, I think it's 25 grams of protein.
Yeah,
But yeah, I don't know. I think they're pretty good.
yeah. Zach's kids they're always hunting down those chalkies. He's got them convinced they're chocolate milk.
My kids,
And I try to
all
tell
they
him like
eat
this
is
is not
all my
chocolate
kid
milk.
eats is protein shakes.
Yeah.
I'm actually scared to death to like if we were invited to like a dinner with another family because he doesn't even know how to like operate at a kitchen table.
Well, be scared. I've taken him on trips, and you'll take him to St. George, Zach's son.
You got to fill his gas tank up before you get there.
Well, he brings like, he's got a T-shirt that he's got on, and he's got a box of Chalkies.
Yeah, that's all I sent him with. A box of
protein drinks,
box of protein shakes, and.
But the problem is Zach forgets to send him with straws, and he is not touching.
Yeah,
those
he
things
won't.
without straws.
Yeah, he won't eat them without straws. It's tough. I'm creating monsters at home for sure.
Yeah, but Chalkies, it could be worse than that plant-based protein.
Yeah. Hey, big weekend in sports.
Mm-hmm.
Did you watch the Masters?
I watched definitely a lot of parts of the Masters. I think like the Scheffler, when people are so good, it's weird because you just end up rooting against them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know.
He's probably a good guy, but he's so boring.
Yeah.
The Masters is it's pretty epic, but I wanted like a Fowler or anybody else but Scheffler. Scheffler's just been dominating.
Yeah, it would have been fun to have something exciting like that, but it's hard not to reward a guy who's doing that good. But every time I'm watching the Masters, though, I get that hankering for some good seafood.
Oh my gosh, yeah, we got to give a backstory on that. Me and Alex, through a work connection, were able to go to Masters Sunday. We did not belong there. This is like the mecca of golf, and we know a lot of golfers that are really into golf, and they were so upset with us because we don't really care. We play golf,
yeah,
but we don't care.
Yeah, Zach plays shoeless most times.
Yeah.
So he's more like Happy Gilmore's caddy, but
yes.
he plays well shoeless. But yeah, we got this invite to go, and this was back when Danny Summerhays had made the final.
A local kid
made the cut of the final, not the final pairing, but like he was.
But it was an intense round of golf, and I was running from hole to hole. Finding stuff, and we have access to these restaurants and it's unlimited food.
It's called Berkman's Place.
Yeah, here it is. It's the 18th hole. It's overtime for the Masters.
Mm-hmm.
I'm out there like scrounging to get a good view of the last hole, and Alex, he just was like, you know what? I'm just gonna watch this from the clubhouse and eat oysters. So he just watched it from the clubhouse.
Yeah, me and Lynn Swan. I think John Harbaugh was there too. And
nobody was there. Everyone was watching it in real time because they had paid for the tickets.
I don't think
you were the only one.
I think Lynn had a jacket. He had a gold one though. It was a gold jacket.
Yeah, sure.
That's when you can I think being a member, he got the gold jacket or something.
Yeah, that culture is so weird though. They're so intense.
Oh yeah.
And like you pipe into like watching it on TV and Jim Nantz is talking about it and they're just whispering the whole time. It's so corny sometimes.
It is.
Where you're
it's
like,
bad.
you guys are such dorks.
Yeah, I know.
But I get that it's awesome and it's immaculate and people really like lose themselves. People are obsessed with it. Who did you want to see win? Like, is there somebody?
For sure, McIlroy.
Yeah,
McIlroy for sure. Cool, Rory would be my first choice. And I'm not I don't care that much about golf, but I mean, with McIlroy, it's the one major he hasn't won, right? And it's easily the most important golf tournament. He's finished in like the top 5 100 times or whatever, right? Like, so I would love to see McIlroy win it. But
do you hear he might sign with Liv?
Yeah, I don't know why you wouldn't at this point, right? Besides just pride.
Yeah, because they're supposed to pay him. I forget how much. It was an insane amount of money.
Well, think about it. If you're already making an insane amount of money to golf from your sponsors and everything, these tournaments where it's like best case scenario you win, you're flying all over the country. Best case scenario you win like a couple $1,000,000. Or you sit at home with your family, right? Because you watch that Netflix show, and it's like they have
full swing.
Yeah, full swing. They have a tough time like balancing that family life. So I think that's the draw with the Live, even though Live's like completely non-sustainable, right? Because nobody's watching Live. Right? Have you ever watched like a Live tournament?
No, it's just all these. It's almost like these rich people that can just pay for
golfers
whatever they want just to entertain them.
Yeah, but I want to get that rich where you can just
pay someone to watch
like boards on the floor rich, you know what I mean?
Boards on the floor, Succession reference. What about the UFC? Did you watch the UFC at all?
I just watched like the political side of the UFC stuff. More just like, they'll like
when
one of the guys who won like referenced some very like cool economists I like, and so it was circling around my nerdy group. So like,
his family, he talked about capitalism.
Yeah, exactly. That was basically it, right? These.
Well, they made a ton of money on bonuses this time. Like,
I did see that knockout.
The knockout was insane with
freaking
Holloway
awesome.
and Gaethje. I love those fighters. Those are two of my favorites. They had to fight each other for the BMF belt, And it was just Holloway dominated the whole fight, really. But it was cool at the end. He just points to the center of the octagon and is like, "Let's throw down." And they're just throwing haymakers. 1 second left. Holloway knocks out Gaethje and he falls to the ground.
Crazy. Yeah, that was.
It was so awesome.
That was wild.
And they were giving it. I mean, usually Dana White will give like $50,000 bonuses. And so while he's doing the press conference, someone's like, "Hey, you think you can up the bonuses like for the fighters since it's UFC?" It was UFC 300, so it was like a big epic event. And he ends up getting him up all the way to like 300K. So Holloway at that one, he got 2 bonuses. He got knockout of the night and fight of the night. So he got 600K in bonuses.
Oh, good for them, dude.
Yeah.
Nice. I know that's where boxing, like we need to. I mean, we need to take all the money from boxing. Like it just needs to. But we need to retire that sport. Like move on. Like it's
a cool sport, but it's not. It's you have to almost start it from ground zero and run it like how the UFC was able to. Because UFC is so new, they kind of figure out what they liked and didn't from boxing when they started it.
Mm-hmm.
But what I do love about the UFC, like people say how barbaric it is, but like, and bloody, but like the Holloway Gaethje fight, like they cannot show each other enough respect. Before the fight, after the fight, they're hugging, they're tweeting at each other, they're calling each other. Like
that's cool.
There's so much sportsmanship, and I think the minute they actually like they talk some crap, people do, but by the time they fight, they never are talking crap after. They're always like hugging and stuff because they just throw it out there. Like boxing, I feel like.
Do you think the insane money like affects that in boxing, where it's like they don't have they have their they don't train together? They didn't go through like the ringer together, really.
Yeah, maybe some of that. And it's just boxing is just a show. Like UFC is a little more raw, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, boxing feels like mob influence. You know, it was like,
that was
for
their
sure. Thing. UFC's more.
UFC's like in Dana White. He's brash, but I really like the way he runs that thing because he gives you the matches you want to see. Like you're not like. He like puts and people are willing to lose. Like in boxing, if you're 30-1 and you lose 30-0, you like are irrelevant after that. But in the UFC, you can lose plenty of fights and still become a champion.
Yeah,
like
that's cool. I like
cool.
That.
You don't have to like duck people. Like it's okay if you lose.
Because I feel like boxers to maintain that streak,
they fight bums.
Yes, they fight bums, and they fight very conservatively, right? Like you think of the latest.
They're fighting not to lose. Yeah,
Mayweather fights, and they were always just like there were so few punches actually like landed. It's
what do you think about the Jake Paul
Tyson
fight?
Yeah, I mean Tyson's like the greatest part of boxing. So anyway, we can get back involved. We were young when we were really young.
Oh, Tyson was. Everything.
He was the greatest. My parents didn't splurge on a ton of stuff when we were young. It felt like, I mean, we had cable TV, but they did splurge for the Tyson Holyfield fight on pay-per-view. I remember we got like a special box for it.
Post Tyson, it was after he got out of prison.
Yeah, and you'd pay like hundreds of dollars for a pay-per-view fight, right?
Send you out the box.
Yeah, and my dad plugs it in and we're watching, and it lasts like
not very long.
Not very long because he just kept biting that ear. You know, he just wanted that cartilage.
He went at that ear. Oh, you're right. We were talking about CDs earlier. I remember when we were kids, you'd pay, which is actually still sounds kind of expensive. It'd be like $15 for a new CD.
Mm-hmm.
If CDs were still relevant, how much would a CD cost with today's inflation?
Oh, man.
Are you paying like $60-$70 for a CD?
What would I pay for Tupac's Greatest Hits?
Tupac's Greatest Hits was was that a double album?
That was a double album.
Yeah, so it probably cost even more. That could be $100 double album there.
Oh man, yeah, things have gotten expensive. Yeah, people take that for granted too. Like we don't pay for music really. I mean, not that you see.
Well, when we were kids, we had cassettes. That was our thing. But our first CDs, I remember like the first CDs I ever either owned or saw and used and listened to a lot.
Yeah.
And I remember buying off my sister for $5. I bought the Crisscross album from my sister. But why did I have to buy it? Why wouldn't she just let me borrow it? But I purchased it under the same roof.
Which one was it? Candace?
No, this was Jess. Yeah. But yeah, she must have been done with the CD.
Yeah. Yeah, CDs. You back in the day, you know, if you wanted to bypass that $15 CD price, you get your credit run and get that BMG. You remember BMG? It was like a monthly subscription.
I remember BMG.
And they would send you a CD.
I seriously ordered Nirvana Unplugged. I'm still like in 3rd grade. I'm still waiting for it. I never got it. Yeah. I ordered it through our aunt. Our aunt had the
BMG.
Had the BMG subscription. And I said, just hook me up with one CD. I'll pay you.
Well, people don't realize
He took my money.
like people got their credit shredded from BMG.
Had all these CDs coming in.
Yeah, well, no, they just like I remember one of my buddies. Yeah, he wasn't paying the bill, right? Like you're 13 and someone's going to send you a CD every month because you put your dad's or you put your information in there.
Our parents would have killed us if that was the case.
Yeah. No, they ran
Our
a
parents
tight
bought
ship.
it. They had CDs though. I listened
Yeah.
to a lot of Beatles. I remember buying the Beastie Boys CD.
Mannheim
License to
Steamroller
Ill.
at Christmas.
Yeah, we had some good CDs. They listened to a lot of. Sometimes they bought every Play CD. We were listening to like Cats and Phantom of the Opera
They went-
on all the time. I was
They
like,
went through a strong
Dad,
Andrew
don't you
Lloyd
listen to anything
Webber.
cool?
Mhm. Yeah, Andrew Lloyd Webber really got in their heads. Yeah, it was like, yeah, they weren't even, Cats wasn't even a cool musical, right?
No,
Like,
it wasn't
even
cool.
good.
They had some. I mean, there's some beautiful songs on Cats.
Yeah, memories.
Man, oh, that's a great song.
Okay, so if you go, because I think about this every day, but if you go back and insert yourself into any TV show world, right, and just become part of that world, which one would it be?
There's so many options because you see people kind of doing this by rewatching stuff all the time on Netflix. People always go in like they rewatch The Office. It's not because they haven't seen it. They like the feel of that world. It like gives them like it's like a comfort thing for them.
Yeah.
But I would definitely go into Full House. That
Okay.
whole world, man.
Which bedroom would you take, you know?
I would bunk up with DJ for sure. Yeah, I'd bunk up with
Oh,
DJ.
Steve would not like that.
Steve wouldn't like it, but you know, at the end of the
You
day, we
distract-
shake hands.
Distracted with
one
the sandwich.
No one gets too mad.
That's
Yeah, I just
so
distract
hungry.
with some food.
Yeah.
No one gets too mad on Full House.
No,
Like,
you're right.
and then at the end of the day, I could have like a serious talk with my dad, Danny Tanner.
Yeah.
And he'd sit me down, the music would cue it, and I'd sleep well that night, just knowing I learned a lesson.
Yeah, that's what
That seems like a really innocent world.
well, people think
Saved
we're
by the Bell would also be a freaking great world.
Oh yeah, depends on who you are on Saved by the Bell though, because if you're not a main character, you know it could get life was tough. You remember that frog guy? He was like a monkey. They'd make dance just because he had a frog voice.
Oh yeah, he'd come in. Yeah, he'd come in like every couple episodes. He was a recurring character though.
Yeah, but no, I think I would see your Saved by the Bell and up it to Saved by the Bell Malibu Sands because
Oh yeah, that's
when you can
summer.
go Carosi
Yeah,
and Kelly Kapowski.
yeah.
Oh man,
Kelly Kapowski. I actually started following her on Instagram. She has she does like different recipes and stuff.
they all end up doing that, don't
They
they?
all start cooking.
Yeah.
Just like I think the Royals, Megan and
She's cooking now.
yeah, they're trying a whole new thing. I think she's starting to do some like cooking stuff, and he's actually doing some special on like polo. I don't know,
Like Polo's sticking with
horses.
him. Yeah. Oh, the actual sport.
the actual sport.
I feel like that might be a tough.
Yeah, if you're
That's a
trying
little-
to
if
relate,
you're-
if you're trying to relate to
yeah.
people,
I don't think there's a less
the common
relatable
folk,
thing than
that's
polo.
literally the most royal thing you can do. So I hope it works out for him.
Yeah. He might get deported though if Trump gets in. Trump said he was going to deport him. You hear that?
Would you rather be lost in a desert or lost in like a frozen tundra?
Desert.
Why?
I mean, I feel resourceful in the desert. You know, I think I could
Really?
find my way. You got
Doing what? How would you find water?
well. You know me as a kid. I was all about that lizard life, right? Like sometimes I would lay
So
out.
you just channel your inner
I
lizard.
would lay out next to the lizard, yeah, and just soak up that heat, use that energy.
I would do the winter. I think it'd be easier to survive in the winter. I've had jobs in both though. You know, I've worked outside where I've been digging freaking ditches in the sun and just baking all day.
Mm-hmm.
I've also worked in a freezer
Yeah.
stacking pallets for
Your
ice
college
cream, negative
days.
20 degrees. So the only
Tell me about the preparation, the mental and physical preparation when you know you're going to go an
into the
8-hour
dark,
shift.
into the basement in the dark in a freezer. It's negative 20. I don't know. It wasn't too bad. I was young, and so you're kind of just stacking pallets. You know, you had a mission. you had your orders.
Did
to
you
fill.
have like a Sub-Zero rated forklift to stack these pallets, or is this all arm by arm?
No, it's the same type of forklift, but like your skin would get so dry in that it would split. So I'd have like my heels and stuff would be splitting. That was the only problem. And every once in a while, for fun, I'd take all my clothes off and drive the forklift throughout there. But shortly after I left, this was Snellgrove where I used to work. We would deliver Dryer's ice cream to all the places like all over the West Coast, but we would stack pallets down in this freezer. But one guy got too crazy with it and he tipped over and then knocked over like a bunch of the shelves, and they canned him. So
Oh man,
it's too bad.
it's a bad way
He's
to
a good
go.
guy.
Yeah, you're in there. You're on an ice high.
But what we would do in that ice cream factory, because it's unlimited awesome ice cream. You have like dryers, you have Snickers.
Well, was it
Snickers-
unlimited, or like were they like have as much as you want?
No,
or
this
were you-
is what they would say. They would say, "Hey, if it's a damaged box, you can have it." So I would I would see the big 48 pack of Snickers ice cream.
Yeah.
And I'd ram the forklift into it and be like, "Oh crap, it's got a hole in the box."
Yeah.
And then I would just scarf Snickers ice cream, which was so good.
That's probably a bad policy.
But that was exactly what everyone would do. If you wanted ice, like, I mean, it was pretty easy. Like, you just kind of rammed into it. And they were like, "Oh, it's damaged."
Yeah, you like are you in mittens or are you gloves guy?
Well, I was in mittens at that time, but it's hard because that time we had to write down which ice cream we had packed up. It was a big checklist. So you had to have a pen. And a
need that
pen with
index.
gloves sucks. It's hard to write. And I was writing like, my memoirs during that time too, in my downtime in the freezer. That was a cold job.
That's
But-
how you landed, Liz, right? It was just your memoirs in the
Right.
freezer.
Yeah, my memoirs.
Your heart
So
is
cold and dark down here.
is ice. Still clinging to winter's chill.
Yeah, that was a good job though.
Yeah, that's. I mean, do you feel like if you could go back to any of your jobs, right? Because we all know right now you're an import exporter for LA.
Mandalay Industries.
So if you could go back to any of your prior jobs, like right now, which one would you take?
I'd go back to the freezer. I want ice cream.
So just
No,
just for the
I've
immediate
had so
satisfaction.
many. My buddy was asking me the other day, he's like, "Go through your resume of jobs you've had." I've had like 800 different jobs. But the funnest one was when I was a videographer, and we would go. I worked for this multi-level marketing company, and I was just their videographer. And they would go everywhere and just act rich everywhere they go. But wherever they go and had to act rich, I had to film. So it was awesome because they go all over the world, and everyone's always in the camera dancing, like showing off like their nice jewelry and stuff, or wherever they're at, restaurants.
Yeah.
But my job was just to be there and capture these people. So I got to travel, eat at the nicest restaurants, go all over the world. It was awesome.
Did they make you like? They actually pay you, or did they make you recruit 10 other videographers?
No, I was just paid corporately, so I didn't have to do any of that. Which was so
amazing.
awesome.
Yeah.
Still miss the freezer days back then, though. Fall asleep in Hawaii on the beach thinking of, if I was only in that freezer eating ice cream again.
No, I remember secretly that was like the busiest time of my life, and I remember like always being so jealous because you like, oh, I got to go back to
I would complain
Florence
about having
again.
go to places.
on a cruise. I
Yeah.
know, and you're always like, hey, I got extra room.
No,
Right.
at that time I should have taken more people because I don't know. I took Liz a couple times.
Yeah, but Liz is she's hard to travel
Yeah.
with.
She is. Yeah, if you don't know my wife, traveling with Liz it's super fun when you get there. I'm
is
never
great.
going to the airport with my wife again.
You're gonna book separate flights.
100%. I'm not traveling with her again. She makes you get there 5 hours early.
Yeah.
She's panicked. She's packing for 3 days straight, like overthinking it. And
Yeah.
I'm just done doing it. I've learned I've been married for 15 years. I'm done.
See, I love Liz like a sister, but even that like anxiety is rubbed off on Kelsey in a way where I
It's
feel
so
like
bad.
it never happened with Kelsey, but now Kelsey, like for days before they're cleaning the house and like you can't get out the door with Kelsey. Like if I'm going to St. George or somewhere where it's not the airport, because now it's like way early to the airport. But if you're going to St. George, it's like you cannot get her out the door because she's still packing and cleaning and vacuuming in that order. Dude, we took our little electric bikes. They got a throttle on them. We took them over from our house all the way to Bombay House, which is like 20 miles.
Yeah, it's a long ways.
But the funny thing about it is, like, I figured Kelsey would be pretty like scared, and we were with the friends that had scooters. But she was like just zipping along. Like she was being really crazy because you know how bikers have like their own kind of set of rules, and then motorcycles have their own set of rules, right?
Yeah.
Drivers have their own set of rules. she was taking like the best case scenario of whatever
Each
rule.
roll.
and going
Using the
through.
bike lane when she needed to, getting back in the car lane.
She's flipping off everybody, right? Like she's just really, really enjoying herself. So it was
She was flipping people off.
she just, yeah, because she
She's
had the
right.
right of way. She's never found herself in a position where she
has the right
always had the right of way.
Yeah.
She was right of way incarnate.
So she got to flip everybody off.
Yeah.
Have you ever, when was the last time you got flipped off?
Oh man.
I get flipped off every probably 3 weeks driving. And I'm always like, I don't know what I did. And I'm sorry.
Yeah. That's kind of my reaction too. I never feel road rage that way, right? Where because I know
What I'll do is I'll go to my window and I'll hold up my Venmo account.
Yeah.
And I'll pay them $10 if I've offended you on the road, I will pay you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good idea because I feel like that can like soften the blow a little bit.
Yeah. If they start flipping you off, you're like,
Our buddy Jordan, when he was young, he carried around tennis balls.
yeah.
And when somebody would piss, he
a
was
wild
a
man.
wild man. But somebody piss him off, he would pull up next to him. But this would be like, I'm trying to imagine how this would be because
throwing a tennis ball and you're
Driving-
across your body.
yeah. So I don't know how accurate he was or how good he was. But
And then was there a lot of therapy that took place after that? 'Cause
Yeah.
I can't see him doing that anymore.
some tennis ball
Because,
therapy.
man, you don't want to mess with people on the road. People
Also-
can go there.
Tennis balls weren't cheap. It's not like you could.
Yeah.
And you're not like finding them everywhere, right? So it's like he's
So he
stopping
would-
by the Big Five.
How many
He's buying his
was he
tennis ball, but you get that smell, cracks it open.
Oh, man.
Gets that smell.
It gets them all excited to go get road rage and throw them at people's windows.
Yeah. He's next level.
Yeah. Do you ever throw eggs at people?
No, but I've been egged many times. Most of the time,
You're usually the one getting the eggs thrown at you?
Yeah, I remember, in like high school, I'm driving my brother's truck, and like feeling pretty good. Mom and Dad let me drive it. He didn't need it for the night, and I drive my truck, and all of a sudden, I'm just getting pelted with eggs in the truck, and I turned like thinking like, who are these? Like I like remember screeching my tire. I was like, I'm gonna chase these freaking pricks down, and it's you. You're egging
I
your
egged my
own truck.
I wanted it back. Did you at least wash it for me?
No, I don't think I did. I think it stayed.
Yeah, I did that same thing later on in life. I think I was like probably 25. I was old, but you were at home. No, I was younger than that. You were at home. You were still living at home.
Yeah.
You just moved out last
Yeah.
year.
Let me stage this story. So Zach has moved out. He's in college, and I had just gotten back from my mission, so I was just home, and I get an anonymous call from somebody who went by the code name of Sloth, and he's like, "Hey," and this is like 1 a.m. He's like, "Hey, you didn't hear from me, but somebody's coming to get you tonight." Click. So I'm like, okay. So I'm looking out, and I knew it was coming. So I shook up like the only weapon I could find was a bunch of soda cans. So I went and shook up a bunch of soda cans, and I just waited on the front porch. 1 a.m. goes by, 2 a.m. goes by. Finally, about 3 a.m.
How many sodas did you end up drinking?
3 a.m. Two people roll up and they start toilet paper in the house, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna let them get like in, make them think they know. So I let them go for a minute. Finally, I start yelling and chasing them. They're running down the street. I'm throwing soda cans on the ground. They're exploding everywhere. It was awesome, but it turned out that person getting us.
It was me.
Another getting us.
I loved it. I was at some party by mom and dad's house. I'm like, let's go toilet paper my own house. Let's do it. I knew you were home, but I didn't think you'd come out. I didn't think you'd hear us.
Well, I would. No way I would have heard you
Sloth.
if I would have got that anonymous tip.
The crazy part about that, I remember you hucking soda cans. And I think you hit me with a couple, but I was running so fast that I lost one of my shoes. I never found the shoe again. So we came back to this party. I was like one shoe down, like covered in soda, and everyone's like, "Where have you been?" I'm like, "I just got my parents. I got them good."
So you went back to a party with all your buddies. Drove by. Meanwhile, I'm rounding the two towers and into Return of the King.
Yeah.
It's 4 a.m.
The best is when like our little brother Drew, we had made enough enemies that we got toilet papered or egged or something at our house, and we blamed it on the younger brother's friends. So he had to clean it up. Whoever your friends were that did it, you usually had to clean it up.
Yeah.
And so somehow we got Drew to get out. Like even maybe in that one, I think Drew had to clean up the time I toilet papered our house.
Yeah, and it wasn't one of those scenarios where, like Jean Valjean moments, where you're watching an innocent man take your fall, right? And like it almost gave you more joy that he was having to clean it up.
Yeah, could have been worse. I mean, I was almost going to take some Molotov cocktails to the front door.
That would have been. I don't think my sodas would have kept up with those.